Well, good day to everyone that's online with us. I am going to take just a couple of seconds to allow some people still to join as they are entering. So grab yourself a cup of coffee, a notebook, whatever makes you feel most comfortable. So just give people next couple of moments. For those of you who are already online, it's fantastic to have you here, and I'm so looking forward to the next 50 minutes or so together. And I trust that it will be more than just another webinar, but that you'll find it immensely valuable and that you'll get a couple of nuggets that you can use immediately. All right, so maybe just from time's sake, is if you're still joining, you are so welcome. I've been with Sentis for almost 11 years now in a variety of roles and capacities. And the journey really started around 11 years ago, where I was at a mine site, and to today, it's still, for me, it breaks my heart, where there was an explosion and three people died. And I remember going through an emotional reflection to going, while we're there, we're trying to make a difference. We're trying to improve the safety culture. We want people to go home safely, and yet we still had such a devastating experience. And it was really in the months that followed was reflecting on that experience. And I happened to come across a gentleman named Matt, and he was from Sentis, and we started to talk, and I was just sharing my heart of kind of the turmoil that I was going through. And I'm not even a miner. I didn't work underground. I didn't have all those dynamics. And he started to share kind of Sentis's approach and how Sentis approach safety. And the more he spoke, I'm going, my goodness, that's exactly what I want to be part of. And he started to share things, and I'm going, if I only knew this 3 years ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I could have been so much more effective in what we were doing. Now, Sentis doesn't glow in the dark. We don't have all the answers. We're not the silver bullet, but there was something to going, there's an idea, there's an approach, there's a philosophy that when we embrace, it can make a significant difference. But before we get into that, for me, it's always fitting just to take a moment and have an acknowledgement of country. And so from Sentis, we acknowledge the traditional custodians throughout Australia and recognize their connections to land, waters, and community. We acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, and we pay our respects to elders past and present. We extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples here today. We do this because we value Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander history, culture, and knowledge. So I think it's within the same sentiment as we take just a moment to acknowledge country is at Sentis is it really is our heartbeat, and everything we do is kind of going, how do we improve the lives of the individuals that we work with, as well as within the organization? And I think our heartbeat is, how do we use the latest research in neuroscience, psychology, leadership development, organizational dynamics? How do we use this in a way to partner with our clients, and that will bring about a shift in their safety culture maturity, where they're having this positive, energetic environment where people want to work safe? And I think that's the key driver here. It's not people are forced to work safe. People are, mandated, where there's something of, we must comply. We almost say compliance is the beginning. I don't want to do it because I've been told to do it. There's something of an internal driver within me. And I think this is really where we're going to be focusing on today, is how do we deal with the dynamics? And when I say dynamics, I immediately think of this image. And when I look at it, I struggle to comprehend that someone would get on this vehicle driving at these speeds when it's tilted that way. If you go on the internet and you actually you're on YouTube, there's people where they get out of the car and then they walk around, and as they walk around, someone will then get out of the door, and they literally walk around and switch drivers in this capacity. And my brain just, I struggle to comprehend, why would you do something that, in my opinion, is just outright crazy. It's just so foolish. And I think of the model here. I haven't been to this building in Dubai, but I know the building structures there. For them to be in that position. They had to willfully go up to the top of the building. They had to get through the last door. They've had to jump over a wall. They're holding on certain security barricades. This is not just it happened by mistake. Here's intentional decisions being made. And I just go, this is ludicrous. Now, when I look at these and I pass judgment on this type of behavior, it's actually very convenient that I pass this type of judgment when I don't look in the mirror to go, and actually, we are all guilty of doing something of this nature. Now, it might not be as extreme as being on a vehicle driving 120 kilometers an hour while it's tilted or hanging over a building. It might be simply is that we knew from a young age we should have been putting money aside for retirement and we didn't do it. Or maybe we eating that extra piece of pizza. We know we shouldn't. We know it's not healthy, but even though we know it is, we've decided to eat it. Maybe it's just simply as I've got to get from Brisbane to Cairns and it's raining and there's a degree of risk that is taking place, but I still choose to drive to my destination even though it is raining. Maybe we're sitting on a little bit of the other side. Or for me, it was the fortune is I went skydiving out at Early Beach at the end of last year. And it was an incredible experience and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Maybe it's just that extra beer where we know now I've gone beyond the tipping point or even really putting ourselves in harm's way while we text and driving. So we all have a spectrum and we can relate to this is that we've all done something that we know we shouldn't have done, or we haven't done something that we know would be beneficial to us. And so it's part of the human dynamic. And so we've got to be asking ourselves is why do we do these things? And I think maybe the first starting point is that knowledge is not the primary driver of our behavior. Now, having knowledge is important to us. Now, I don't know for a fact, but I'm fairly sure this gentleman putting up a think safety first knows that standing on the handrails is not the safest way to do it. I'm fairly sure that he would know that maybe getting a ladder or putting up some sort of scaffolding would be the better way. But even though he knows that, is he still had a set of behaviors that's now putting him in harm's way. Just as I know I shouldn't have had that extra piece of pizza or I shouldn't have been texting and driving, it's unlikely we don't know that. But even though we know it, is then we still make different types of choices. And at Sentis is we really constantly refer back to what we refer to as our ABR model. So we say we want certain results. And in the broad scheme of things is we want to have this mature, a healthy, positive safety culture where everyone goes home alive, that they're well, that they're vibrant. And so that's what we're looking for. Now, to have that, to be really honest, it's actually quite easy. Simply get everyone to work safely. Simply get everyone to be committed and focused in doing the right things, treating each other with respect, doing their work, but with a sense of vigor and focus and intentionality, being conscious in doing it in a way that's going to get them home. And so if we can just get people to do that, and everyone knows that, and here's the key issue, the fact that I know it doesn't mean I'm going to do that. And if we go back the last maybe 5 years, even up to 10 years ago, is there's been a huge focus on behavior-based safety, and it's really made a difference. It's brought about an impact, but it hasn't brought us as far as what we were hoping. And the real reason I can focus a lot on behavior, but far more effective is let's look at what drives behavior. Let's get an understanding of the motives of human behavior, because when I understand that and I tackle that, it just makes life so much more long-term effective. And so what we've noticed is what is the driver of behavior? And that's what people think and feel. It's the attitude towards something. And obviously in the purpose of this webinar, it's our attitude towards safety. So one of the things, I've only been living in Australia a year and 10 months now. And most incredible year and 10 months of my life. Absolutely loving it. But I came across a phrase that I've never heard before. It's the only time, and I've traveled extensively, and she'll be a right mate. It's just such a uniquely Australian term, and I get a sense of satisfaction because it speaks so much of the Australian culture. It's just this relaxed and don't be over bothered, and it's a very welcoming concept, but it's also an attitude of we don't need to be vigilant. We don't need to do a thorough risk assessment. We don't need to put all the barricades or the controls in place. We can take a shortcut. Why? Because she'll be okay. And so, if I have that mindset, if I believe that, if I have that type of thinking, it's going to drive certain behaviors where I'm not going to be as vigilant, where I'm not going to be as committed, where I'm not going to pause and take a time out and go, I need to do this thoroughly. I need to make sure that I'm conscious, and I'm just going to, I'm going to rush through it. Where I go have an attitude and go, no, I can't rely on she'll be all right, is I'm going to get the results that I want because I'm going to have the behaviors. Why? Because I believe, I think, I have an attitude that I'm committed to my well-being. I'm committed to doing the job well and to do it safely. I'm committed. See, it's my attitude. It's something that's within me to go in that I want to make sure that my colleagues, that they also go home safely. And the decisions I make not only impact me, but it's also going to impact them. And I think as leaders, one of the most potent things we can do for our organizations is to go in, what are the current drivers, the attitudes, the mindsets, the philosophies that is driving behaviors that we like? It's working for us. It's making a difference. How do we celebrate that? How do we reinforce it? But if we're seeing behaviors that aren't helpful, that aren't working for us, that people are doing things that aren't safe, is what are the attitudes behind that? What's driving those mindsets? And let's start to find out what they are and start to tackle them. And if we can have shifts there, is see how it's going to make a difference in how people function, which is going to, at the end of the day, make a difference in our results. And you can see an attitude is simply as what we make, is what we think and feel. And that is, I'm just going to go back. Sorry, I'll jump and I'll come back to that one. That's about the brain, because the brain is simply, in the most simplistic form, a chemical electrical organ. It's electric impulses that's going through our mind, and that's how we think. That's how we feel. So our thinking and our feeling is an expression of what's taking place within our head. And when we understand how our brain works, its makeup, is what's happening is it puts us in control. Now I'm not having I want to say a safety outcome by luck, and I got home safely simply because nothing went wrong. So no, because I had certain thoughts, I made certain decisions that drove certain behaviors that gave me a certain outcome. So I think we might want to just start going, why do we take risks? And there's a whole variety of reasons. And I'm sure for those of you who have done the skydiving, why would I do something that is apparently so crazy? To be really honest, because I got a massive thrill, the sense of adrenaline, the sense of excitement, the memory that it's caused. I'm going, I want to do that. The other side, we wouldn't have the society today if we didn't take risks. We would still be out in the middle of nowhere, without all, sorry, because I'm looking around me here, with the technologies that we had. Someone had to do certain things to design the TV. I'm fairly sure it wasn't working the very first time. I love traveling, and we have airplanes. Man, airplanes are the best things on the planet, but it didn't just magically appear. So it had to take people that were pushing the boundaries. They were taking risks to bring about the innovation and the change that we are now experiencing today. So if I could put this out here, it's not so much about we mustn't take any risks. It's about how do we function in an environment that is inherently dangerous, and that how do we work in the presence of hazard safely? How do we take calculated risks? So if I'm going to jump out of a plane, my goodness, I want to make sure that it's with a professional. That was the first question asked. How many jumps have you made without any incidents? Second question is, how many near misses did you have? And the moment I heard none, I'm going, okay, I'm willing to jump with you. But if this guy's jumped 10 times, I'm going, okay, no, I'm going to go find someone that's at least got a couple thousand. I want to make sure that the parachute has been packed correctly. So there's certain things that we can do something that is inherently risky, but how do we do it safely? How do we make sure that we have the right controls in place, but also the right decisions making processes? And that's what we're going to be spending the next 40 minutes or so, is looking at some of these areas. So I'm going to share most probably, well, not probably, I'm going to share four brain facts now, kind of link them together because they are separate, because collectively it makes a significant difference. And I think the first thing about the brain, because it's a chemical electrical machine, I'll never forget as a youngster, as my science teacher told me that electricity always takes the path of least resistance. If I consider my brain, is it weighs about 2% of my entire body mass, but it uses up to 20% of my body's energy. So compared in size to that of the amount of energy it's using is a massive energy guzzler. So what's happening is the brain is constantly trying to find ways to go, how can we function without using so much energy so that we can get more done? Now, because it's always trying to find ways to save energy, is we love taking shortcuts. If I look at this scenario, I'm just going to use body language to go, now I need to adjust the aircon. Now I've got to go get a ladder. And the ladder's in the garage. So now I've got to walk out of the house and it's raining and it's inconvenience. And I've got to open the garage. I've got to get the ladder. I've got to come back into the house. There's a perfectly good chair standing right next to the TV. So what does my brain do? There's something of an unction. Don't go and get the ladder because the ladder uses too much energy. Now, the funny thing about this is now I stand on the chair and I fix the aircon, I step down. My brain doesn't reprimand me and go, oh, you naughty thing. What you did was take a shortcut. You could have fallen. You could have got injured. No, I actually get a sense of adrenaline and a burst of going, well done. There's this dopamine release and just a small bit of going, you did a good job because why? You saved me energy. And so it's understanding that by natural inclination is I will find the easiest way. And this is where knowledge does help. Is that when I start to understand how my brain works, I'm going, no, I'm not going to take the easiest path if it's going to set me up for potential injury. And so then I can go, thank you, brain, because I'm not a victim to my brain. Thank you for making that recommendation, but I'm choosing not to go that way. So let's just hold that thought and we come to the next one. Is 95% of what we do on a day-to-day basis is coming from a subconscious processing capacity within our brain. So we don't have to consciously think about everything. So right now, your brain knows about the temperature, knows about your body position, knows about your breathing patterns, how the heart is working, the lungs, all of that the brain is aware of. It's aware of the traffic outside, if there is outside by you. It's aware of all of those things. It's even aware of your pinky toe in your shoe right now. Now, what's interesting is for most of us, unless you bashed your toe a few minutes ago and it's throbbing with pain, we weren't thinking about our toe. Is hopefully you either a message has just come through now and you focused on the message, or ideally is you're listening to me. So consciously, we have a very limited processing capacity. And so our attention is on pretty much what we're doing here. Everything else is being run by our subconscious. And which is awesome, is because it saves us a whole lot of energy. So I don't have to think about breathing. I don't have to think about my toe being in my shoe. I don't have to worry about the traffic because it's outside of this building and I can be here. Now, the interesting dynamic of our subconscious is it's pretty much, it's based on all of our experiences, all of our learnings. And so I've specifically got this image up here. It's not exactly the same, so it is a limited analogy, but it's like a hard drive. And all that's happening is as we go through school is we receiving information. Our society is giving us information. TV is giving us information. And so when I close my eyes, is what's happening is I'm getting images of my experience. When I don't know, I think back onto South Africa, immediately images is popping up based on what's been stored upon my brain. Now, this is really important because if I didn't have these memories, I would have to relearn everything from scratch. So what's happened is I look at the cookies here and I go, yum. How can I say yum? It's because I've eaten one in the past. So now imagine if I'd eaten the cookie here and it tasted terrible. Is I would look at it and go, oh, I don't want to eat it again. Why? Because I have tasted it and it wasn't pleasant. So if we didn't have this memory capacity, if we weren't learning through the past, as I would literally every day would have to learn from scratch on how to shower. I'd have to learn from scratch on how to put on my clothes. I'd have to learn from scratch how to drive a car. So what's happening is as we go through life, we are learning these skills so that now I can drive a car and frankly, all of us, is we can drive it to a large degree without thinking about it. I don't think about the mechanics of doing the clutch and the accelerator. I don't think about the mechanics of changing one gear to another. Is I just concentrate on what's taking place on the road because I don't need to worry about all of those things. I've built a habit. I'm now functioning. I'm driving at a subconscious level, which saves us heaps of energy. Now, I'll come back to that point because it's going to tie in nicely. Is because of this dynamic, is our brains have a predictive nature. So if I show this to you now and I ask you what is the word behind the red outline there, is most probably all of you are going to, as I did also the first time, is I'm going to say it's jump to conclusions. But then here is the I want to say the right answer. And a couple of things are happening here. So when I said what is the phrase that has been put there, is my brain's not going, oh my goodness, do you expect me to examine every possible letter there? The amount of energy that it's going to require, it's just way too much work. And so I look at it and go, have I seen this before? And I go, yeah, I've seen something very similar to this before. And it was jumping to conclusions. So what's happening is because I've seen it before, my brain doesn't want to use a whole lot of energy, is I automatically come up with that response. Now, 9 out of 10 times, it is the correct response. It is the right way. Why? Because we have the experience, which is wonderful. It's setting us up to get the right answer without using a lot of energy. But here is the dynamic, is our predictions of the future of what's going to happen is primarily based on the past. So let's say I'm walking through the field and I see the red mushrooms and I take the mushrooms and I eat the mushrooms and I get sick. So what's happening is the next time I'm walking in the field and I see the red mushrooms, my brain goes, oh, we've seen red mushrooms before and we ate the red mushrooms and the mushrooms made you sick. So my brain predicts that if I eat it again, I'm going to get sick again. So what I do is I don't eat red mushrooms anymore. I eradicate it from my to do or to eat list. But maybe the red mushroom didn't make me sick. Maybe someone had previously put pesticide on it. And so it wasn't the red mushrooms itself, it was the pesticide on the red mushrooms that was making me sick. And when we take concepts of she'll be all right, what's happened is I've taken a risk before and I didn't get injured. I took a shortcut in the past and I didn't get injured. I was attending a Toolbox Talk meeting, but I was playing on my phone and I wasn't listening and I had to do a risk assessment and I just did tick, 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 and I signed and I handed it. And I've done that and I've never been injured. And because of all these past experiences that I've never get injured, you know what my brain tells me? You don't need to fill out a risk assessment. You don't need to pay attention in a Toolbox Talk. You don't need to be vigilant in your work. Why? Because you ain't going to get injured. And that's a concern. Is the fact that I didn't get injured in the past is zero guarantee of what's going to happen in the future. And that's when I need to start to make different decisions. I need to start to have a different focus capacity. Now I need to go in certain, any high risk activity. I don't want to be functioning from an automatic pilot. I don't want to be functioning from a subconscious perspective. Is I want to be very conscious. Anytime I've got to do anything that has a high risk to it, is I'm going to go, no, I'm going to almost click out of that mode. And I'm going to go, I want my attention here. And if we don't understand this, it's not even that we're making decisions, because we're making decisions at a subconscious perspective, that automatic pilot, that default, versus making conscious decisions in the moment. Now, if I bring back our brain here, is that all of our brains are pretty much the same. They're same design, pretty much the same weight, same makeup. The difference lies is how it is wired. So when I close my eyes and I think back to South Africa, I have certain images, and particularly I'm going to think of Pretoria images. That's what's going to be the first. Why? Because I lived there for 20 years. Then I'm going to most probably get images of the bush. Why? Because I love the bush and I'm a photographer. Some of you, as I'm talking, you'll get those memories because you've been there, you know that. Or maybe when I said photography, you'll get other images because you also enjoy photography and they might not be the bush. It's all irrelevant. Why are we all thinking different things, or we have no thought because we've never been to Africa, is because of the information that is on our brain. So each experience causes us to evaluate and to almost wire ourselves. And so while we all have the same physical brain, the gray matter here, is how the brain functions in each of us is so unique. Now, it was interesting. This happened to me last week. Is I was here at the office and I've got the remote and I'm putting it, well, I'm clicking on the button and the TV's not working and it's starting to irritate me because I'm pushing it and nothing's happening. So I call someone who's in charge of IT and I'm going, there's something wrong with the TV. And she goes, no, there's nothing wrong with the TV. You have the wrong remote. The TV remote's right next to you. And what's happened here is this remote is very similar to the one that I have at home, and I didn't even notice the other one. And so what am I doing is I'm pushing the button on the wrong remote for the TV. And this is really important for us, is this remote, the inner configuration is designed to work on the whatever that thing is called in front of us, the little data projector. Forgive my lack of IT experience. With this, it's wired in a way that it works with the TV. It's not going to open my car. It's not going to open the fridge. It's only going to get the TV to work. Why? Because that's how it is designed. And many times, well, not many times, this is how our brain works, is that as we have these experiences, is we wiring our brains, these electrical impulses that are taking place, and we are starting to develop attitudes. We're starting to develop certain thinking and feelings around people, around work, around life, around safety. And is this wiring working for us? So when we're pushing the button, is it getting us the right outcome or is it not? And this for me is most probably the second best news out of everything we're going to do today. Is I was raised that when I have an experience, it's almost like a book and I put it into my brain. And I close my eyes and I want to think about South Africa. What I do is I take the book out and then I remember it and then I put the book back into my brain. I put the memory back in there and I have another experience. And each time, what am I doing is I'm putting this memory, I'm putting this information on my brain. And then when I'm reflecting, as I pull out the memory and I put it back in. The great news is that's actually not true. Our brains function more like a Word document. So what do? Is I open up a Word document and then I type and I create a document. I'm putting information on the document and then I save it. And the moment I save it, what's happening? It's getting stored on my computer. Then I can come and I can open up the Word document again. And this is the great news, is I can change it. I can delete parts. I can add parts. I can put bold. I can underline. The bottom line is I can adjust what's on my Word document and I can adjust the wiring in my brain. So, random example. Let's say you've met a South African before and they were gruff and rude and unkind and demeaning. And so what's happening is you now have a memory that South Africans are rude and gruff and disrespectful. And hopefully you'll meet me and I won't be gruff and I will be friendly and I will be respectful. So what happens is now you can't go, oh, all South Africans are that way, is we can change the script in our brains. So I can come and be on Australian and I can have the mindset, she'll be okay. And I can go, no, I can change that. I can have a different perspective. I can have a different stance. So irrespective of how I was raised and how, the memories that I've formed and the belief systems and the attitudes that I have, the great news, I'm not a victim to that. The moment I see that mindset, let's take a very practical example. I grew up that speeding was acceptable. In fact, it was normal. In South Africa, we don't have rules. We have recommendations. And so I grew up with that mindset. It was okay to exceed the speed limit. It wasn't an issue. Now I come into the safety community and go, oh my goodness, when I do excessive speed, I'm putting myself and others, and particularly when my kids are in the car, I'm putting all of us at risk. And I'm going, it's not acceptable. And what am I doing is I'm starting to rewrite the thoughts, the belief systems that I have on my brain to such a degree that I don't need a little sign to tell me what the speed is. I don't care about whether there's a traffic cop or not a traffic cop. It's irrelevant to me. Is I've developed a new attitude when it comes to driving that it's just not even a consideration. And I think this for me really is so important is as human beings, too often is we only learn these type of lessons once something badly has happened. So when do I learn that I need to drive safely? Is after I've been in an incident. And the good news again is I don't have to wait. I don't have to be in an incident before I start to make decisions. And that's when we start to be in control. And I happened to be in the army for 2 years, and there is something. It was just interesting because it was the other day. No, I haven't been in the army in 35 years, and I was in a discussion, and immediately there was just something, an automatic reaction. I'm going, I haven't saluted anyone in 35 years, and yet it had been drilled into me every single day, moment by moment. This is how you walk. This is how you function. You come to my house, you're not going to believe it. My hangers are still 2 fingers apart from each other. My clothes fall in a certain direction. They're going to be 4 fingers apart. I'm so embarrassed that I'm saying this, but what's happened is 2 years of being drilled. This is how you make your bed. This is how you put your hangers up. This is how your clothes are ironed. And it just got so drilled that without keyword, without even thinking, I just do it. And so what's happening, this can really work for us, is without thinking, I just put on my safety belt. I don't even have to consider it. This is exceptional news because we can train our brains to do the things we want without even thinking. Now, it's when we have habits and behaviors that are putting us in harm's way, or when we're in the presence of a hazard, we're not taking the appropriate actions to keep ourselves safe. And I need to become aware of that. I want it to be attentive and then start to have the right behaviors. I want to start to build the right memories. I want to start to build the right attitudes within my brain so that I almost want to say the right way of doing it then becomes my new way. So I almost want to say that was 4 different brain facts, and I've put it in a collective, is many times as we find ourselves in situations doing things we shouldn't be doing because it's simply an expression of wanting to save energy, and it's how our brain has been hardwired and we're running from an automatic pilot. But awesome news is I'm not a victim to that. I can make other decisions. I can put new information on my brain. I can rewrite the script. I can change the wiring to form another set of behaviors. But also what's really fascinating when it comes to the brain is just as I'm not aware right now of my pinky toe or the traffic outside because I'm conscious of what is taking place on my screen right now, is we have a very, very, very limited processing capacity. So to prove this is I'm going to show you this image here, and I'm going to push a button in a moment, and something's going to change. So what I want you to do is just look at the screen. I'm going to tell you when I push the button and see what changes. So here we go. Okay, it's starting to change. There we go. It's changing. It's almost changed. And there we go. It's changed. Fantastic. Now, unfortunately, I'm not seeing you face to face. I've done this countless of times. And to today, percentage-wise, more than 99%. It's really the absolute exception where someone sees it. So if you saw it today, well done, you would be in that exception group. So if you didn't see it, I'm going to give you an opportunity to try see it again. So same screen, and here we go. It's changing. There we go. It's starting to change. It's starting to change, and it has changed. Excellent. Now you all got it. No, my experience tells me the majority of us still didn't get it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, we've got the front end loader, and looking at the screen on my side to the right is that there's a pile of sand, and then there are 2 smaller piles of sand, and then you'll see the circle that I've put in there. So now I'm going to click and watch how 2 more piles of sand appear. There we go. They're starting to appear. They're starting to appear. They're almost there. And now we see 2 more pieces of sand, piles of sand. So what's happening is that our brain, or if I can just go back a slide, is what am I doing is most people naturally will look at the front end loader. Why? Because it's the biggest thing. It's the potential danger. It could hurt me. It could be fascinating. Other people, they would see the sky because it's the biggest portion of the screen. Other people, what happened is they try to see it, and so they're all over the place. They're looking at the front end loader, then they're looking at the crane, then they're looking at the gravel and the clouds, and their brain is scattered because I told you got to find something, and you're looking. Whether you focused on the front end loader or your brain was everywhere trying to find it, is that for the overwhelming majority of us is we still missed it. And this for me is a huge concern, is that I need to check my attitude. Do I have the right attitude towards safety? If I don't, I need to change how I think and feel about safety so that I'm making the right decisions. But this one concerns me even more because I can have the best attitude and I can be so committed to safety and yet still miss potential hazards that could hurt me. I could go trip over those piles of sand and go, well, how did that happen? Because I just simply didn't see it. It wasn't that I was a bad person. It's not that I didn't care. My brain is just limited in the conscious part of the brain. So let's get this, and here we go. So by default, we miss a lot of things. I don't see the traffic over there. I'm not aware of what's taking place over there. Why? Because I'm focused here. And it's just, I'm not bad, I'm not evil, I'm not stupid, I'm not overly clever. It's got nothing to do with intelligence, background, age, none of these things. It just is, I have a limited conscious capacity. So, I mean, I specifically called this webinar Brains Behaving Badly. But when I start to understand that our brains don't behave badly, is they behave according to how they are designed. So it wants to save energy. So guess what? It behaves that way. It functions that way. It's not that it's not doing a bad job. It's doing it how it was meant to operate, how it's meant to function. And so it's about us understanding the brain's function, understanding the brain dynamic, and working with it. Now, just think back 100 years, 200 years, 500 years, forget about multi-thousand years, is if we think back just a couple of 100 years ago and the society that we used to live in, it was a far easier society. Pretty much just go back 2,000 years and we think back and go, what was our primary concern? What did we really have to worry about? And if I can be a little bit simplistic, is I go, can it eat me? Can it harm me? Can it hurt me? Okay. And then the second is, can I eat it? So is this thing going to eat me and I'm going to be its lunch, or can it become my lunch? Then third one is, can I sleep under it? Can I get some sort of shelter from the rain or from the sun? And then can I sleep with it? Can we procreate? And so those were really is my four primary focus. It's all that I'm really worried about. I don't have to worry about electricity because there wasn't any. I don't have to worry about cars because there weren't any. I don't have to worry about airplanes because there weren't any. The amount of experience around us was so limited compared to today. Now, just in this room here, the amount of electricity, whether it's in the roof here, the TV, from the laptop, just electricity that I'm not even seeing because I'm not physically seeing electricity that I should be aware of. Our brains, and this is the issue, is the brain that was around 2,000 years ago is still the brain that's around today. And so its design was ideally matched for that environment. And because the brain hasn't changed in its form, its structure, how it works, is we are now functioning in a society in conditions that the brain originally wasn't made for. And so I want to be so aware that when I find myself in a situation, if I take the traffic here, I do not want to be driving and texting on my phone. I don't want to do that. Why? Because I'm going to miss stuff, and I'm putting myself in a situation that if something goes wrong, it escalates the possibility of being an incident multiple times. I definitely don't want to be walking across traffic, and I'm astounded when we walk in traffic and in the road, and we texting while we're doing it, or we're watching YouTube or whatever it might be, and I'm going, oh my goodness, our brain wasn't designed to be doing these multiple things at one time. Maybe back when I only had to worry about an apple falling on my head, then maybe it's a different scenario, but that isn't our scenario at the moment. So this is escalated. So if I take my brain, now the brain has different, I want to say, sizes and strengths of brain wiring of connections. So if I think of an electrical impulse is shot through the axon is length is going to vary, thickness is going to vary. But if we take almost want to be at peak, if there's a myelin sheath over that axon is at peak, the connections are firing at around 400 kilometers an hour. I mean, and that's nifty. I mean, that's fast. So my brain is doing a whole lot of great things on my behalf without not only without effort, but with great speed. That's at peak. Unfortunately, is through a variety of things, is that peak starts to drop. So when I've had too much to drink, or I'm tired, I haven't had sufficient sleep, or I'm frustrated, or I'm rushing. What's happening the moment I'm rushing? So my attention is on the rushing. It's no longer on what's happening around me, and so my ability to see the sand starts to be reduced. My ability to concentrate and to be focused and to be aware and to make the right decisions starts to decrease. I'm fairly sure many of you would relate to this. Is uh, Someone does something to me at 8 o'clock in the morning, it's just whatever, because I'm alert, I'm attentive, I have a different capacity. Come 6, 7 o'clock at night, the same thing can be done to me, and now I become agitated. I become irritated. Why? Because my resilience through the course of the day starts to decrease. And so we see many arguments tend to take place later on in the day. Things that irk me are more emotionally severe at the end of the day than what they are in the morning. Why? Because I simply become tired or I become distracted. And so I want to be very attentive to these dynamics in my brain, because they're going to have an impact on my ability to concentrate and to focus. And it's not that my brain is behaving badly, it's just behaving according to how it is designed. Anyway, that is a whole session in itself. So what can we do about all of this? And we're just going to spend the next 10 minutes to go and give us some tools that we can use. So the first is, I love this concept of lock on, lock off. And so when I show this image to you, is you must probably went through a couple of processes. So many people, what do? Is they see a Cocker Spaniel. So that's the first thing, and that would be fairly normal. Other people is they didn't see the Cocker Spaniel, they saw the heart that would be the nose of the dog. So they didn't see the dog, they just simply saw a heart. The other people is they would see one or both cats. So if I saw the Cocker Spaniel, is I don't see the cats, as I see that would be the ears. And the funny thing, I've been doing this for years, over 10 years. I've been showing this slide, and I've never ever saw that there was a dot at the bottom. And it was on the last webinar, someone pointed out and go, you've missed something. So what's happening is when I lock onto the Cocker Spaniel, is I don't see the heart, and I don't see, because I see it as a nose. I don't see the cat because I see it as ears. The moment I see the cat is I no longer see the Cocker Spaniel. I don't see the dot. So when I lock onto something, is I lock everything else out. And this is actually great news for us, because what we can do is we can get people to lock onto the things we want them to. So when I show this and I go, what is the missing letter? Most people are going to go A, because it spells soap. But when I throw this image up, very few people, when I go, what's the missing letter? They don't go A, because they are primed. I've got them to think in a certain way using that image. Now they see U, soup. So why don't we use U here, or why don't we use A there, is because we've primed thinking in a certain way. And this is so great, is because I can prime my thinking and I can prime other people's thinking. And again, this for me is exceptional news, because it's putting us in control, and I'm not living by luck now or by chance. And I think the big one when it comes to priming is that we think in images. So when we look at this, and if you're looking at the bottom left screen here, is when I go, think of a red balloon, you don't see the letters R-E-D, B-A-L-L. No, you see an image of a balloon. And so when we can communicate in ways where people can see the reason for working safely, when it's not so much about complying. Now, we need to comply. I'm not saying we mustn't comply, but when I see that by working safely, I get home and I can enjoy time with my kids, is I can enjoy traveling, because that's most probably my biggest passion, is I can see these things, I have images of it. What's going to happen? It's going to stir something within me that I want to be doing the right thing. Now, this for me is really interesting when it comes to safety. When I say don't think of the red balloon, guess what? We still think about the balloon because I've primed you. The words that I'm using, that which I get you to focus on, is on the red balloon. Our brain thinks in pictures. So when I say red balloon, there's an image of red, there's an image of balloon. There is no image for don't or for no. So I so love this. Charlene was absolutely brilliant. So we were working with this refinery, and you can see there's this long passageway, well, not passageway, but walkway between the main office block and the other office area. And on each of the lampposts, there was these signs. And when we came the first time, is you may not do this. So there was all these rules and regulations, and they were all positioned in the negative. You can't do this. And I'm going, do you realize that when people walk past them, all they see, there's probably two things: this negative attitude from safety. You can't, it's rules, you may not, it's instructions, and they're all positioned as if you're going to get into trouble. And Charlene was so brilliant. She took all of them and then she just reworded them in the way that we want. Just going, what? At this site, we're always committed to safety. At this site, we are passionate about each other. At this company, we always do the right things. We are committed. We are vibrant. We are people of discipline, of excellence. We rally together and we do things with, as in a sense of community. We don't just do risk assessments. We do them thoroughly and with intentionality because we want to be seen and identifying the hazards. And then we don't only identify the hazards, stick and sign it and hand it in. No, we're going to make sure that action is taken so that we put in the right controls in place. And if there aren't any controls in place, we are going to make sure that we are vigilant in the presence of these hazards, and we're still going to do it safely. And that's all we do. We just talk that way, and we're priming people from the moment they come on site, the moment they come into an office area. This is what we do because it's who we are. We rewiring our thinking, our whole attitude to how we think about ourselves, how we think about each other, how we think about work, how we think about working safely, and we just keep talking that way. I'm just not going to waver because I'm just going to focus. This is who we are. This is how we function, and we just keep priming. Now, this is kind of a scary bit, but also good news is when I look at this image, I don't have a mental experience. It stirs me. The first time I looked at it, I got an attitude. I go, you're going to speak to me that way? I'm not even seeing this person in real life. So let's say he's saying to someone, again, it's just a photo, he's going, you idiot. Now, if he said that to me, I don't logically process, oh, he's in a bad mood. He's not called me an idiot. Even if I'm wrong, the fact that he's communicating that way is something takes place. I'll either feel sad, heart sore, rejected, pushed away, or I'm going to come out fighting. Oh, you think I'm in the out? You see, and what's happening? Logic has long gone out the window. And many times, as we think, as we can tell people as if it's just going to be an intellectual process, and because we've told them, is they're now going to do it. So it's coming back to the notion is if we give people knowledge, we expect them to now behave in accordance to the knowledge. And I'm going, no, what drives our behavior is what we think and feel. So if I look at this, oh, man, my heart breaks for this little girl. You can see she's distraught. Now, it's possible is what she did was wrong. It's possible she was naughty or broke something or didn't do her homework or whatever it is. And it's appropriate that her mother reprimands her. It is the right thing for the mom to do. But I think the bigger issue is once the mom has reprimanded her, is what state has she left her daughter in? When we interact with our colleagues, when we interact with our workers, once we finish talking to them, what state are they in? Because I tell you now, it's highly unlikely that this little girl is going to go, oh, thanks, mom, for bringing that to my attention. Woo-hoo, I'm so excited to go do my homework. Oh boy, I will never do that again. No, that's not going to happen. She may do her homework, but she's not going to do it with the right mindset. There's something taking place here. And I think the worst thing about this image is the relationship between her and her mom is now scarred. And it's going to take extra effort. And so if I'm facilitating a toolbox talk, I'm more concerned about how the state people leave the meeting than the information I've shared. Now, I need to share proper information, but the experience of the meeting is way more important to me than actually the physical words that have been communicated. If I'm walking around and I'm seeing someone take a shortcut, it's my responsibility. I do need to bring it to their attention. But how do I do it? What's the quality of my interaction? So I want to bring it to their attention in a way that when we finish talking, they want to change. They want to do the right thing versus going, oh, Brett's just a silly South African. Those South Africans, they never get it. Then I haven't achieved my goal. This is hands down my favorite quote. People will forget what you said. People forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel. This is just so beautiful. And it's just personally, it's almost my agenda for every day is I'm going to meet 3, 4 people, maybe 5, 6, 10, however many people I'm going to interact with. And before I even think about what I'm going to say, my highest priority is how am I going to make them feel? And then the words that I'm going to use, the content that's going to be shared, the ideas, that becomes a secondary. It almost becomes a support. And how are we priming people? So, oh, if you don't do this, you're going to be in trouble. If you don't do that, you're going to be reprimanded. Versus, we are in this together. We are passionate about everyone going home safely. We are absolutely committed to having a certain quality of life, and we're going to rally together and we're going to do this job. And this job is hard. I mean, you're working underground or construction, it's outside and you've got all the weather conditions. It's not easy. There's no rah rah and rainbows and fairies. I'm not saying that, but there's something about this is hard work, and it is tough, but we're going to do it in a manner collectively together that we're not only going to get the job done, we're not going to only get it done in budget, we're not only going to get it done in time, because all of that's important, but we're also going to get it done safely so we can live a quality life. And that's what I want to be communicating. So I've got 5 more minutes and then I'm going to wrap this up. So I hope this has been valuable for you. I just want to give you really one concept and then a quick wrap up. One of the things that I can do, and I've already been sharing it to some degree, is understand that there's certain parts of our brain that is naturally wired to connect with other people. And we refer to it as our social brain. And so there's yeah, let me not get into that because I'll be there all day. And one of the experiments that I love that's been repeated so many times, the Ash experiment. So what they did is they took a pole, it was a certain height, and then they had 3 poles next to them. So obviously, one of the poles was the exact same height as the other one, but then they had a shorter pole and a longer pole. Then what they did is they had a queue of people. And so the first person would come to the front and they'd go, which is the corresponding size? Now, obviously, it's B. And the person would look and would go A. And then they would move on. And then the second person, they would go, so what's the corresponding pole? And they would go A. And the third person would go A. And the fourth person would go A. And then when the fifth person came, is they had a look at it and they're going A. Now, what the fifth person didn't realize is the 1, 2, 3, 4, they were actually part of the experiment and they deliberately said the wrong one. So when they ask, go, did you know which the correct answer was? And go, yeah, it was B. So why did you say A? 2 primary responses came. The first is, I would rather be wrong and in the group than be right and be ostracized. What a powerful notion. Is we can really use the social brain to our benefit. Is, let's say someone comes and joins our team and they don't have a healthy safety culture. They are a little bit flippant when it comes to making quality decisions. And we're going, you know what? If you want to be part of our group, we're fully committed. We are so, vigilant when it comes to working safely. We care about each other. And what do? Is we just simply bring them into our culture and we're going to go, this is the way it's done. And without being rude and, being a bossy type of person, it's just our culture. Now, where our culture is, we don't care about safety. That's now it's going to need intervention because we want people to all going, this is what we're about. The second answer was, why did you pick A and not B? To go, I knew it was B, but everyone said it was A. I started to doubt myself. And how many people do we have walking around seeing things? They go, I know this isn't right, but they've actually compromised their own integrity in their thinking patterns to go, maybe I'm missing it. Maybe I'm missing the point. Maybe there's something I don't understand. And so they're starting to waver in their commitment to what is taking place. So this is a great tool in our brain that we can use to pull people into making the right decisions. Now, if you think about society, and this will be my second last point, is what's the highest form of punishment? If I do something that is so heinous, is I'm going to be killed. So the death penalty is the highest form of punishment in society today. The third highest punishment is we lock you up. So we're going, you are so dysfunctional, is we're going to put you outside of society. The second highest form of punishment is going, okay, we've already put you outside of society. We're not going to kill you yet. What we're going to do is we're going to put you in solitary confinement. The second highest form outside of killing someone of punishing people is locking them away. And I go, when I understand this, I go, it is so essential that every person that I'm meeting, how do I pull them into my presence? I want to take them out from being isolated. I want to bring them into the conversation. I want to bring them into the decision making. I want them to feel part of the group, because when we are by ourselves, and I feel rejected. It's a form of punishment, and great leaders pull people in to what we are doing and why we're a team. And I want to be a team of such characteristics that we care about each other. We are all doing the right thing. But there's enough trust between us that if I see someone doing something that is not right, or they see me, there's enough trust, enough safety between us that they can call me out and go, hey, Brett, we don't do that here. Oh, man, thanks for bringing that to my attention. I was just a bit tired and I forgot at that moment. And I make the adjustment and we are all winning. And then the last point is my example speaks more than anything else. If I go to this doctor and he tells me about not smoking, I'm going to smile and go, yeah, whatever. It's if we can have all the best messages, but when we come on site, if we're not wearing our hard hat, it's sending a massive message. When we exceed the speed limit, it's sending a very clear message that the rules don't apply to us, or safety is not that important. We need to make sure that we are setting the example, not only in doing the right thing, but our commitment, our mindset. And because people are looking at that, they're watching it, and it influences how they think. So listen, I really hope that you've got a couple of nuggets, that this has really been worthwhile. Maybe just two announcements is we do have 3 open programs. I'm going to be doing the one here in Brisbane. Ben will be doing in New Zealand and in Perth, where we're going to go a little bit more into detail. I mean, this was an hour and I'm speaking at, in Mach 4 speed, where we can take it down, explore, unravel this a little bit more. And then, we are so blessed. We have our online community. Sign up, so many free resources, videos, articles that can assist you. Vanessa's running one on psychosocial. There's a masterclass. This is such a big issue about that social brain. How do we connect, feel safe, not only physically, and most probably the most important meetings is where our people get together in toolbox talks and pre-starts. So I want to recommend that if these are going to add value, come and join them, being part of that. But I've got 3 minutes left, and I just need to find out how to stop share. There we go. Morgan, thank you just for all your help. Is there any questions that have come through that we can just spend some time answering them specifically?
Yeah, there sure are. I just want to thank everyone for such a great chat today. Everyone's jumped in with such good thoughts. So we have 4 questions for you. I don't know if we'll have time to do all of them,
Okay.
but we'll throw them out there. Okay, so we have, how important is neuroplasticity in relation to health and safety at work? And as a follow-up to that, how can companies promote neuroplasticity?
Well, it's absolutely essential, because it's that rewiring of the brain, because that's exactly it. It's like I'm not pulling out a book anymore, is I'm pulling out a Word document. So she'll be all right, or safety is not important, or we only work in an office environment. We're not working underground, or we're not working at height. All of these are belief systems, and I want to take that belief. I want to take that Word document. I want to talk about it. I want to go, no, whether I work in an office environment, and there are not many hazards, I recognize that, let's just be honest, but I still want to be vigilant in the office environment. Or maybe I'm working underground, at heights, lots of traffic, uh, crane, yeah, all of that. I'm going, can we think a little differently about this? Um, my opinion from my experience is safety still is seen as a compliance issue. It's about regulations, it's about rules, and it's about punishment. And it's still positioned globally too much in that. And we need to have conversations when we go, we do need to comply to the rules. We do need to make sure that everyone goes home safely. There are regulations that we do need to comply to, but can we rewire how we talk? Can we approach it differently? I don't drive safely because I'm not going to get a fine. I don't, sorry, I do drive safely, not because I'm worried about a fine. I don't care about a fine. I drive safely because I want to get home and be a great dad. I drive safely because I want to go home and earn money so I can go on holiday. I don't want to injure myself. And if we can change that conversation and rewire our thinking, oh, it's just going to put us in a whole different playing field. So, awesome question. I'd love to spend more time on that. I
Yeah.
um I do need to say I'm going to stay on. If you need to go, we are on time. I respect your time. Thank you so much for being here. Hopefully we'll see each other on the community, or feel free to email me or whatever it may be. I'm going to answer the 4 questions. So if you want to stay, please feel free to stay. If you got to go, I really understand that. I hope you have a great day further. So
All
yes, what's
right.
the
We'll
second
go to the
question there,
next one.
Morgan? Hmm.
All right. So Josh says, how do we implement this in the age of TikTok? We only
Hmm.
have mere seconds to capture someone's attention. Our
Yeah.
brains are constantly scattered as technology increases.
Yeah. Sure. Okay. That's not a great question. That's a phenomenal question. And
Yeah.
forgive my inadequate response, because it is inadequate. There's a lot of conversation. I almost want to say, Morgan, you should be answering this because you are the expert in this field. I think my quick response would be 2 areas. The first is let's use TikTok. Now, maybe not physically the platform, but let's get videos, short videos, 15 seconds. Let's have posters that are appealing and dynamic. So let's use
Mhm.
the imagery that TikTok is creating. And I think I don't do TikTok, so I'm not 100% sure, but I think I have enough information to understand is what's so appealing about TikTok is it is new, it is novel, there's new things coming, but it's also it creates emotion because I'm seeing people and I'm laughing at their mistakes. I'm seeing people in love and I feel connected to them. I see people taking risks and it creates excitement. So I am living a life through their experience. And I go, what mechanisms can I do that in a very short, powerful, dynamic way can create that same sensation in my people? So I may not use physical TikTok. If you can, great. But what videos do I have? What posters am I using? What stories am I sharing? Who should be at this meeting and share in a very quick way that's going to it's going to make people feel committed. It's going to make them feel they belong. Um, the now I've forgotten the second one is I've forgotten the second one. Sorry, it's just such a great
I
question.
think that
Yeah,
that did answer that one in its
okay.
entirety. But yeah, I think you're right. It's creating that hook at the
Yeah,
start that draws people in.
yeah.
Alrighty, so Naomi has said, Brett, could you provide some specifics on how you prepare yourself to walk in to give a toolbox to make sure you
Mm,
make people feel the message as opposed to just hearing it?
yeah. Uh, Again, forgive a short response. Um, uh, let's take this webinar. Is firstly, I don't have any notes. So what would happen is now this is just me. So everyone is different. We wired differently. So I think number one, I'm an introvert. So I don't like big groups. I gravitate to be by myself. So I'm very happy to be in the corner. So to be at a toolbox talk, just by inclination, is not my ideal place. So a couple of things need to happen. Let's say I've got this piece of paper here. So the safety department has sent me a briefing. I've got to share this concept. Before I get into that, I want to have read it. I wanted to have understood it, and I want to be able to share it in a couple of ways. Firstly, in my own words, I don't want to stand up and be sharing it and reading it because it's boring and dull. Second of all, is I want to be able to go in. Let's say this is on road rage, but we don't have road rage in our company, but we do have something else. And so I'm going to go, how do I take the learnings on road rage? And I'm going to go, but maybe the way in which we talk to each other is causing people to get angry, or there's bullying and it's causing tension. So I want to be able to read the concepts and going, firstly, how am I going to share it in my own words? Secondly, how am I going to make it relevant? And then, most importantly, is if you came in 5 minutes before this webinar, you would have seen me. I had my eyes closed. I'm just breathing. I'm calibrating. I'm just getting the story in my brain. And I'm picturing as an introvert, I'm not always this way. I'm not, and I'm going, I have an hour with you. I need to create that feeling, and I'm going to bring my best self. I want to say, if I can't do this, then I'm going to bring someone in that can do it on my behalf. That if I come into that toolbox talk, I want to know my facts, that I don't have to read it. I want to communicate it with passion and in a way that's relevant to the people in my audience. And if I can do that, I think our toolbox talks will go to another level. I think there's more than that, but that's a great starting place. And the great thing is Vanessa has a whole workshop on it coming up. So here's a freebie for Vanessa. Go and attend that one, and she'll give you a whole lot more practical tools.
Awesome. Craig has said, in relation to your skydiving analogy,
Yeah.
do you feel safe with the experienced operator who may be complacent, or the less experienced who is extra vigilant and
Yeah.
overchecks?
Yes. Both are. What I really like about Craig's question is it's making me think. I want to say both for me are okay, as long as I'm checking. So let's say I, I, I've got the experienced operator doing it for 20 years and is completely complacent, just putting, the parachute together, isn't thinking about it. When I deal with that person is I want to go, are you here now? This is my life and it's your life at risk. You see my kiddies over there? They want me to come back. And just to make sure we're in the moment, have you gone through the checks? And so it is having those honest conversations to the experienced person. And I respect their experience, but I don't respect their disengagement. And I'm going, I want to leverage off your experience, but I need you present consciously in this activity. This is jumping out of a plane. This is highly risky. We can die. I need you here. Then the second is that you've got a novice and they are focused and are going to go, great. Are you are you sure we've done it right? So you may be eager, but you still have done it poorly or incorrectly. Then we need to make sure that we are double checking. So both can work, and both can work against us. I just want to be having the conversations and making sure that whatever we're doing, we are doing it correctly. And I want to say this takes time. And we normally under the gun so much is we've got to produce and we've got to get this and we've got to sort that we don't have these conversations. And they don't have to be long conversations, but they do require at least a 30-second or a minute or 2 minutes. And it requires energy because now we've got to have the conversation. And my brain goes, seriously, it's going to be effort. Let's just rather take a chance. And I go, oh, there's where the problem lies. So thanks, Craig.
Mm.
That was great.
Yeah, definitely. Sounds like experience doesn't equal safety
No,
maturity.
no, no, very much not so. The,
Yeah. And then Tracy has asked a really interesting one. I'm not aware of any research on this, but is there any research about whether there's a difference in action slash behaviors between workers with an inner monologue and those who don't have an inner monologue?
Tracy, are you still online? Because I'd love to get a definition of inner monologue. Um,
Hmm,
so,
not too sure on that one. Oh, yeah.
uh, Tracy, help me because I'm not aware of anyone who doesn't have an inner monologue. So what would that look like? You want to take yourself off mute and join us?
Oh, I don't think she can take herself off mute.
Oh, that's such a pity. Oh, I can't wait to read this. This looks so fascinating.
Yeah.
With no explain. Sorry for those of you online. I'm just quickly scanning the document. Today, my mom told me I have no internet, and she started that I have three hits. Earlier this year, a lot of people discovered that some people don't have an internal. Okay, Trey, this is very fascinating. I must be frank, I've never heard of this. So you have my full attention. I'm going to go and read this. Um, what it's like to not, after people character get out of system. Oh, no, I'm going to have to read this to be able to respond. So,
Yeah.
Tracy, if you don't mind, I'm going to read it and then I'll respond. You completely catching me off guard on that one. So, whatever I say, it will be out of ignorance. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty
This is,
interesting.
yeah.
All right, awesome. Well, that is
Is
all
that
we have.
it? Yeah.
Yep.
Well, for those of you who are still online, hope you have a splendid day. We will be sending you the recording as well as the presentation. And Tracy, I'll reach out to you after I've read this. I'm going to go do it right now. I'm so fascinated to see what it says. So, yes, looking forward to seeing you in the future. All the best to everyone.